This is Stan J. Caterbone and Advanced Media Group. I'm at 1250 Fremont Street, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, 17603, my home office. It's 8:43 a.m. on Sunday, November 20th, 2022. I'm going to give an update to my pending litigation and the ongoing COINTELPRO and torture program that has been levied against me literally since probably 1987, since I blew the whistle on international signal and control, a local Lancaster, Pennsylvania defense contractor headed by Jim Guerin. Just to give you a brief background, in 1986, I had built a financial firm called Financial Management Group Limited. We were a large firm. We opened up in a brand new facility, 20,000 square feet of office space at 1755 Oregon Pike in Lancaster. Uh, we had a full house. We had probably a staff of about 6 back office people. We had a couple brokers. We had about 7 or 8 financial planners. We had insurance, property and casualty insurance, person on site. We had an accountant on site, uh, and a host of other professionals. Now, I was a shareholder of International Signal Control since 1983. Uh, a local state representative, Gib Armstrong, called me up one day, and I traded a few shares of stocks with him, asked me if I wanted to buy some ISC stock. Now, it was traded over the London exchange, I guess for security purposes and because it was a black ops program for the CIA and the NSA. Anyway, I bought 1,000 shares. And in 1987, I had a large mortgage banking operation going, coinciding with Financial Management Group Limited. And ISC had an affiliate called United Chemcon. It was an A set aside company where they did contracting, but it was a minority owned by Jim Christian. So anyway, so they called me up and asked me for a meeting about financing some of their operations. So on June 23rd, 1987, Larry Resch came to see me, and he was supposed to bring along Carl Jacobson, who was Jim Guerin's brother-in-law, but Carl Jacobson wasn't with him. And I asked Larry where Carl was. He said, well, we had to fly him out of the country this morning or yesterday. I didn't think anything of it. Anyway, I had the meeting, and I didn't like the dialogue. I didn't like the tone. I didn't really like what they wanted me to do. And at that time, I was talking to a lot of different people in DC, a person in the Caribbean, a person in DC and New York, regarding some of their activities. Little did I know that Larry Resch was actually one of the principals in international signal control. Anyway, right after the meeting, I had called a locksmith to change the locks in my office. I secured my office, and that's when the COINTELPRO hit started. Essentially, they locked me out of my office, arrested me 3 months later. Anyway, at that time, ISC was merging with a company in Great Britain called Ferrani. Well, they filed about 8 criminal charges against me, 5 felonies, 3 or 4 misdemeanors, charged me literally with breaking into my own office, stealing my own files. It was a COINTELPRO hit, just like they did upon my father in the 60s. Anyway, in December of 1987, ISC and Ferrani merged. The merger was complete. It was a $1 billion merger. In March of 88, all my criminal charges were dismissed by then District Attorney Joe Maddensbacher. All of them dismissed. They were all falsified, phony, just like the mental health warrants. There was one mental health warrant that summer. It was the same thing. Anyway, in 1991, ISC was indicted as the largest fraud in U.S. history. And Ted Koppel and Nightline broke the story about ISC being a front company for the CIA and the NSA, a black ops program. And at that time, they were trying to derail the Robert Gates nomination for director of CIA. So they finally were indicted. And again, they hit me, covered me up. They were extorting my companies, Financial Management Group, then Advanced Media Group, my optical publishing company, which was a joint venture partner with the High companies, Dale High, that was the CD-ROM publishing company. I was the CD-ROM part of American Helix. American Helix, at that time, they were pressing CD. We were making CDs for different music labels, independent labels. Now, technically, it, or American Helix was really my company because it grew out of a meeting between Scott Robertson, who I hired at Financial Management Group, and Dave Deering, who was the person who spearheaded American Helix. He had a background in optical technologies. So anyway, they extorted that company, extorted my other companies. So in 2005, I decided to file my own lawsuits. I went to about 20 or 30 attorneys over the years. No one listened to my case. It was all propaganda, the COINTELPRO stuff. They got to them before I did. Anyway, so I filed my own lawsuits in 2005, and that's when they hit me with the microwave weapons. So anyway, so I've been litigating ever since in federal and state courts since 2005. My first case I filed on May 16th, 2005 against a host of companies, Manheim Township Police, Lancaster newspapers, Lancaster County Prison. That case went all the way to the Third Circuit Court of Appeals, and there were about 6 or 7 attorneys representing various defendants tried to have the case dismissed. I won in the Third Circuit a judgment saying that they had to return the case back to further litigation to the U.S. District Court. Now, on the panel, there were 3 judges who was Donald Trump's sister, Marianne Trump Barry. So anyway, so I've been litigating ever since. I have a host of litigation now pending before the courts. I'll give you a list of the main cases right now. Of course, Nikolas Cruz, Jessica Lopez. This is a local activist that was part of all the protests in front of the Lancaster City Police Department when Munoz was killed by the police. And I'm part of that case. Claire Miller, I'm on my 4th amicus for her. She's a local girl. She was going to Linden Hall or going to Country Day School, and she killed her sister. But she was hearing voices, so she's most likely a victim of these weapons. Then there's Lisa Michelle Lambert. I'm still involved in that case. I have litigation against the Lancaster City Police, the Ramirez family of next door, the stalking people, all the neighbors, so on and so forth. Now, there's been several developments in the past couple months regarding public disclosure of these weapons and these programs. Most notably, on November 8th, a couple weeks ago, Dr. Robert Duncan, who's one of the foremost experts who helped build these parts of these weapons for the CIA, Navy intelligence, NSA, FBI. He worked for just about all those people over the years, helping to develop these mind control weapons, these microwave weapons. About 20 years ago, he found out that they were using these weapons against U.S. citizens, and he turned and started doing interviews. Now, he had security clearances, so they signed what's called a non-disclosure agreement, so they can't enter in litigation. But they can go and do interviews and public speaking engagements and things like that. There's a lot of whistleblowers that are like that. They come from one of the agencies, the NSA, CIA, or what have you. They can't litigate because of the non-disclosure agreements. Anyway, on November 8th, he did an interview with Lambert, who was hit with these weapons, who's a Russian, born in Russia, came to America, and it's a good interview. So I've been using that interview with my cases to prove A, that I'm targeted and the mental health is all propaganda, and B, that some of these Manchurian assassins are targets too. Now, Dr. Robert Duncan in the interview mentions how they program some of these Manchurian, he calls them Manchurian assassins, people like Nikolas Cruz, and there's a host of other ones. He goes into the case of Myron May, who is the prosecutor in Florida who went into the Florida State University Library and basically was killed by the police. He wanted attention, and they shot him before he killed anybody. Then there's Esteban Santiago, who was the Fort Lauderdale shooter who killed 6 people at Fort Lauderdale Airport, which is about 10 minutes from where the Nikolas Cruz case happened in Broward County. I took that case all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. Anyway, the litigation is ongoing. The stalking by neighbors and everyone else is on steroids. The hacking is on steroids of my computers, my phone, and everything else. The vandalism and theft does not stop. Today, I mentioned yesterday out loud in my home that I was going to do this video, and I didn't like the sound on the microphone. So today I went to get my microphone that I had bought this year or last year, expensive one, and it's gone. The other day, I went to make a DVD. Somehow they rigged this DVD in my computer here that doesn't work. So I went to get that. It was in my knapsack. It's gone. Well, today, early this morning, it shows back up. That's called gaslighting. They do that a lot. Now, not everything they break and steal do they return, but a lot of times the small stuff they will. It's gaslighting. It's a PSYOPs program. Look up the term gaslighting. There was a movie recently starring Julia Roberts called Gaslit, and it's about Martha Mitchell. Her husband was the attorney general during the Watergate scandal, and they gaslit her because she was talking against the guy that broke into the Watergate and her husband. So they used gaslighting against her, tried to drive her crazy. So anyway, there's a lot of things going on in the public domain now, especially with Havana syndrome. Yesterday or today, early this morning, I found a case in Canada. Now, some of the Canadian diplomats were hit with microwaves when our embassy in Cuba was hit with our diplomats, and they're litigating. They are litigating. They have a case. I think they have 15 defendants, 8 or 15 defendants litigating for Havana syndrome symptoms. So these cases are starting to get notoriety in mainstream press, slow but surely. Now, the other problem is Julian Assange. He is still in prison. They still didn't extradite him to America. Now, these people, Dr. Robert Duncan explains that when they use these weapons coupled with the harassment and everything else that goes with it, it's a slow kill process. There's no doubt about it that the CIA or someone will kill Julian Assange if they extradite him to America. I filed several amicus briefs regarding that case to the different principals in the U.S. government. And I'm going to do another one now to the special prosecutor who's been named to look into all the Donald Trump criminal allegations. So there's a lot going on, and a lot of this has to stop. These people that harass and stalk me, neighbors, they do it so visibly. Everyone sees it, knows it. That's illegal. It doesn't matter what they say they're doing it for or who they're doing it for. It's illegal. Now, a lot of people say, well, experimentation really isn't illegal. Experimentation may or may not be illegal, but torture is illegal. It is illegal. It's a human rights violation. We often criticize other governments, China, Iran, Russia, for their human rights atrocities. And here, our government is doing the same thing. Now, these weapons you cannot trace. You can't say whether it's coming from China, Iran, Russia, and they all have the same capabilities with these microwave weapons. So they cannot be traced. So you can't say who it is, and you can't say who it's not. Anyway, a lot of this stuff, these neighbors, the stalking, the vandalism and thefts, it has to stop. I have accumulated $70,000 in broken and vandalized items for my home since 2006. That's going to have to be paid by somebody. The Lancaster County Court of Common Pleas. These Ramirez charges for stalking that has given me 10, 11 months in prison and 15 or 16 years probation have to be reversed. These people stalk me day and night. I can't walk out of my house to the front or the back without that family at 1252 right next door stalking me. They're constantly pounding on the walls, on the floors. Same thing with 1248. They do the same thing. The worst houses in this neighborhood is 1252, 1256, 1242, now 1258. All the neighbors are involved with it. The stalking and harassment campaign against me. Like I say, this stuff has to stop. It's illegal. It's illegal. You're going to bring down the Biden administration. They were doing it under Trump. Now they're doing it under Biden. It's now 8:59 a.m. Sunday, November 20th, 2022. This is Stan J. Caterbone, Advanced Media Group. I'm at my home office at 1250 Fremont Street, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, 17603.